Okay, hello folks. Welcome to the next installment of the fall lecture series. Really glad to see you all here. My name is Michael Esbon. I'm the current assistant director of the graduate architecture program. We're really pleased to have our special guest, Andrea Möhn, here, who I'll introduce in just a moment. Before I do that, I'd like for us to just pause for a minute in silence and recognize our land acknowledgement. Thank you. So we're really pleased to say that we've partnered with AIA Baltimore to bring this event to you. And I want to have a special shout out here to Jeremy Cargan from CRGA Design. He's an architect there who works on healthcare. He's been our partner, hardworking to raise awareness for this lecture, and also to ensure that we can offer continuing education credits as well. So if you are—
the guy with the clipboard, need to sign up, here it is.
Yep. If you'd like to sign up, please see Jeremy. You can sign your name on the dotted line and get credit that way. So thanks to AIA Baltimore, and thank you, Jeremy. And so I'll introduce our guest, Andrea Möhn. She's principal of Andrea Möhn Architects, an international architecture practice in Rotterdam, in the Netherlands. For the past 25 years, she's designed custom, high-quality architecture at a range of scales, small buildings, master plans, but always with a focus on healthcare design. She's interested primarily in the influence of the built environment on human behavior, in particular architecture for mental health. Her multidisciplinary design approach based on research, robust interaction with clients and building users, and her extensive experience with evidence-based design has resulted in projects that have been recognized through a whole range of international awards, and it's been internationally published as well. In addition to her practice, she's a board member of the Academic Urban Initiative. She also teaches as a lecturer at the Academy of Architecture and Urbanism in Rotterdam and the University of Applied Sciences in Germany. So please join me in welcoming Andrea Möhn.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you all for coming. Thank you for inviting me. I'm pleased to be here from Rotterdam at the University of Maryland. Nice to meet you all. I'd like to give you a glimpse of my approach, of my work, and what it means for me to design healing architecture. And it's a long process over the last 25 years, and more I realized and learned from my own work and developed it and went on. So a couple of images from projects of ours. These are all healthcare projects, but we also do a utilization like schools and town halls. And I will take you to my youth, which made an incredible impact on me when my father was ill during my youth, and we had to visit him in the hospital. And I remember me, 8, 9 years old, visiting him in this wonderful machine and going through these endless corridors on the way to his room, through corridors, and you could only orientate by numbers and signs and not intuitively. And I remember that even as a kid, I thought, how can you get healthy here? So just when we arrived at his bed, there was a safe haven. So what is needed to design healing architecture? That was the question I asked myself, and it became part of my life. I remember when I studied at the University of Stuttgart, all was about designing a beautiful building, and it had to be technically well designed, shouldn't rain inside, and so on. But soon I realized that there should be a third aspect, social sociological and psychological aspect, to really look what drives people, what do they feel, how do they tick, to understand a person's needs, not only the physical needs, so not only you need these square meters and this follow-up, but you also, how do people feel? So these psychological needs are incredibly important to really design a building that helps and serves people. So if I look back, all the things I did was starting observing the clients, listening carefully to them, running a day with them, and looking for doing behavioral research and participatory processes. Only the projects where we could do this intensively turned out extremely good and almost never had to be changed. So what do we think about when we think about healing architecture? I don't know, maybe somebody wants to scream something. Otherwise, I go on, because I think we all would say it's nature. Nature is very important. It's the first thing. I will show a couple of things related to our projects. And in the end, all these topics come back again and again. So nature and natural materials, and they cause well-being and relaxation. We all directly feel that we breathe more calm. This was one of our first projects. It's a daycare center in Delft, close to the highway actually, almost a couple of feet away. And we first had to face this old building, and we redesigned it, demolished the part, and reshaped it, and used a very natural material that is used in the surrounding. It's growing even there. So we related to that. And you see maybe this little knick in the facade. So it's like a big hug. It protects you. It's different how you experience it. And it's a very old craftsman shape. It's wonderful to see these people work and hear how they cut it and produce it. And it was the first time that they had to use it for over, not like at the roof. But because we used it very vertical, the rain can drop down perfectly, and it lasts for almost 70 years. It's really incredible if you use it at vertical, which is used at windmills, of course. So details, it's also a very sustainable building and carefully designed. This is in the entrance hall. It even material goes into the entrance hall. Now it's gray, as Thatch gets when it's older. Directly got gray, and they introduced a healing garden. It says something about it. People adapt something and they love it, and they go on and make it even more beautiful. And so they use it. It's for mentally disabled clients, outside space, and yeah. And once a year, a Thatch maker comes back and puts some sticks in it, and then it's repaired again. And it's like incredible. I love this. I joined him at this moment. It was really nice. Well, but you can also experience like a building with CLT. This has been our former home, first CLT building in Rotterdam. And it's incredible atmosphere with, it's like a big cello or a cello, or it's like a music instrument. The acoustics are incredibly, it's very nice, and this warmth of the material, and you can build it very quickly. So it's like a Dutch house, 4 floors high, and very dense, but you have a lot of square meters when you put them above each other. So this is the atmosphere inside. Some seating, yeah. And then we were asked to look after another daycare center. And first it looked like this, and they said, the people with intellectual disabilities, they sit behind this fence, and they are seen from the neighborhood, and it's not really comfortable, it's not really nice. Can you change it? Can you modernize the building? Can you do something? Can you do a facelift? And we realized, well, the facelift starts at the fence. So we changed the fence and we solved this problem. They are more protected. And because it's related to a nature environment, we choose also more natural material. So we made a new facelift with a fence, and it's made from a sheep fence, which is traditionally used for farms. And we worked together with an artist from Kent, a photographer who photographed a beautiful forest, and this was used as glass panels. On the right, on the top, you see that it had been a parking spot first in the middle of these buildings. And we said, it has to become a park. Let's move out the cars somewhere else, orientate the entrance to another spot so they get a nice outside space, which is green. And when you enter, this is the reception. You see the art project on the right side is going through, so going around the entire hall. But we also used the floor, that the floor would go up and protect against wheelchairs. So also very practical solutions. And when you look outside, you can look now to this park from the cafeteria. But sometimes it's also a small project, and you get involved in a project because of the kids, and they need a new school playground. It was a very old building, and it was already, there was like a kind of jungle in this space. And I said, well, let's reuse it. And I did workshops with the kids and asked them to draw what they would love to have. And the small kids, they directly start drawing. And the older ones, they say, oh, can you please explain us the context? And we would like to see a section. And it's really nice to see. They are almost like little architects. And they discussed, and then we made a model. And on the left side, you see the green part. Usually you have just a gray playground, and there's almost, it's like a stone desert. But we reuse all the things we had there. And on the other side, they could play a little bit football. And we introduced these stepping stones with these tree trunks. And I like very much when you are arriving there, when there is the break, they run outside and they first jump over all the things. It's like, whoop, we start with the break, and then they run over this trunk, and then through the jungle, this bamboo jungle. It has been there, and then they start playing. I like this, adapting things and playing fantasy. There's a lot of fantasy. Something we were asked to was a little chapel, and actually it had been a horse stable before. It's a little house in the countryside in the middle of the Netherlands, and there's a psychiatric clinic, and they used this horse stable and transformed it to a little chapel. It's on the left, but they did it themselves, and it was really brown, and you couldn't see the balcons, and it was really the roof, and it was really dark, and he said, oh, we would like to have it more like a chapel and fresh. So we changed the light, we changed the colors, designed the altar and all this furniture, and an art project around this little lamp. So circa a foot wide from the back side of the wall, there's this art project. And what is really nice and touches me all the time is when you are in the space and you move, you make wind and you breathe. And while you're in the space, you see that they are slightly moving. And that surprised me too. So I'm always surprised by some things I didn't expect. And these colored shadows, wonderful. And it's very calming, works very well. We even did the baptism font and the chair, the bench, very pure. And there's an oak wood around, oak forest. We reuse this. Big step from a very small project to a big one. It was a competition. We did in Hamburg with DJGA, and it's the heart clinic. It's a competition for the heart clinic. It's a huge building. But even then, how can you make an environment that is green, that these patios are green, where people look outside and enjoy? And you see there's I'll go to the next one. Yeah, you see that it's really green. And you see this canyon for the parking garage. So when you're on a parking spot, light comes inside and you look at the green wall. And we even introduced a waterfall. Actually, it's just a pipe and water runs out and runs down, but it refreshes the air downstairs. And when you're on top, you can enter the building over a waterfall, which is really nice and attractive. And it maybe calms you down, or it gives some relaxation when you enter a hospital, and we are always nervous when we enter hospitals, right? So, but the orientation, how can you find your way? Where's a sign? How do you orientate? It's difficult, and especially in this case, this has been a daycare center for people with an intellectual disability, and they had They were adults, but they had the age of babies, like 0 to 18 months. And you cannot give them a sign. They have to find intuitively. They cannot read. They just have to follow their senses. What we did was there was a wall in honey color where they right straight walked to, and then they entered the central hall, and at the back side there was this wall they walked to, and there are the entrances of the 6 groups. So they could find their way, turn to the left or totally to the right or straight, and that's something they could remember, and they can find their way. Next image you can see that also the material is going inside. We used also materials they can touch that are a little bit different, and his experience on the other side, there's a black wall from rubber, and they can touch it, and it feels like the tongue of a cat, that rough. So this is experience also. But you see this little line on the floor, and it helps them to guide. When this line is going straight, they walk straight. If it's interrupted, they know now we are allowed to enter a room, and it works very well. Also, the entrance mattress is not black, because most of these peoples can see very badly, and their vision is not very good. So if you introduce an anthracite or a black entrance mattress, they would think it's a hole. They would never enter the building. Yeah, and of course, this big hall is great to wait for the bus, but also to celebrate King's Day and come all together. So it's a multifunctional thing. We did a lot of participation with this. Was the first project. We did a lot of participation with the client. They really were involved and checked all the design, and still nothing has been changed. And after 13 years, it's 14 years running now, after 13 years, they did the first time they did new blinds. That's it. So that's a good sign, I think. A wonderful big project is a wooden forest. An old building in Europe, we would say 5,400 square meters, which is quite huge. And it had different entrances. It's a medical expertise center for mentally disabled people. And they said, we want to have one entrance, we want to make one expertise center. Can you change this? So we introduced a long corridor along the facade. And so this was the old building. We also renovated it, also with sustainable isolation and new wood, and we made it modern. This is how it looks now. It's from the 70s. Small details will give a nice feeling. Yeah, and also the orientation, because it's on a countryside where 400 intellectual disabled clients live who have really severe problems. And they also cannot read or write, so they have to find their way intuitively. And I'm always inspired by the metro of Mexico City. Maybe one of you has been there. It's amazing. Lots of people are analphabets, but using the red line and remembering the certain signs for a station helps them to find a special spot and the right place. So we tried to do something similar. We had these different areas, so they had to go to the blue area, the agogic therapy, they had to go to medical care, to the physicians, and also to the physio. This is the yellow on the top. When you enter, you have this overview into the different corridors. Overview is always very important when you design healing architecture, because it gives a feeling of safety. And we used, for the 3 areas, we used billboards. Silo Agency made a beautiful wayfinding design and this concept. It's great how they work. Antelope with tennis balls showing you the way to the physio, for example. Also these little things. Or I did not want to make steel bumpers on the ground so that people wouldn't run and drive into the offices who are on the left side. We opened the old facade, and there are offices and meeting rooms. So we use this visual story. We made sticks, like on the other side, and now they see, okay, we have to stay on track. We stay between these sticks, and they never had an accident there. It's really lovely. We asked them to do wallpapers as well. So all the meeting rooms, they got wallpapers, and they are like rabbits made from cactus, like getting this idea from, hey, for the clients, this is not true, why? And that they think about it. And it's nice for the people who work there as well. Or a pig made from pearls, and an elephant made from feathers. Shark, or that Nemo, the corridor. Yeah, and because this is a huge building, we had to participate with 120 people. So 120 therapists had to be asked, had to be involved. We made diagrams and lists, but we did a participatorial process, and we came together and showed them the design, discussed it, and again, until we had a result. Everybody said, yes, we want to work there, we want to do our work there, our daily work. This is in front of the physicians, and they needed a sitting element where people can sit apart from each other because they cannot stand to sit always together. But it's important in such a building that everything is included. Nobody feels excluded, so everything has to be accessible, but also helpful, like little, you see this bench on the left side? They all have a kind of, where they can hold themselves before they sit down. It's like when you're old, you have to grab and feel safe when you sit down. This at the lunch table upstairs. And finally, we won a prize, second prize at the European Health Design Conference. So universal design is a better word, I think, than inclusivity, because universal design means that you design really for everyone. It's not only for people in a wheelchair, what else? And I think the best buildings are in a way that when you use them, that you even don't think about that it's designed in a special way. It's just, you can just use it. This is a nice example. It's a dwelling, also for people with intellectual disabilities, and because 5 dwellings are on the second floor and 5 on the first floor, I wanted to have a long ramp around the trees, the existing trees, and you can get up, and it's inclusion, and this means dignity for the people who use it. Everybody's equal. On the second floor, you can enter the dwellings, and because we asked them, how would you like to live? And then they said, well, we would like to live in a normal house like normal people. So we said, okay, we have to make a normal house, but it was quite long, so it's 330 feet long, and we zigzagged it, and this helped to, let it appear smaller, and you always see just a part. It's really nice. And this long ramp around the trees, and on top, on each entrance has, it's wide, so you have this contrast between light and dark, and you have a bench in front where you can sit down. And even if you don't sit down, it gives you another feeling when you enter a building. And you can sit down and have a look at the others. Then on the other side, when you entered, there is light. So you're walking to the light, you can sit down, there are nice little seats, and relax. They always cook together. And we asked the clients, how would you like to live? So the interior stylist had 4 different panels with different colors. They could say, this is me, I would like to have my floor like this and my wall like this. And then it's very individual how they design a space. And I like this individuality you can see in the project. So teaching, I don't go too deep into that, but if I teach, I always ask my students, describe with 3 words, in 3 minutes, 3 healthcare stories from your family, because we all have these stories, not only a broken leg, but cancer, other things we all know. And when we dive into that, we realize we know a lot about it, and we feel it, and it guides us. But also, using a wheelchair or being blinded and walking through the academy and experience what is working and what not. And run a day in the field, just see how a healthcare institution works, ask questions. Future Living, this was a project I did with students in Dortmund. And we did also these, this is in English, that we asked them, interview people who will use these multifunctional spaces and will live together. And then it's interesting when you have these living environments, for example, and there are all elderly and younger students and families, and how can they all live together and what are their needs? Ask them. And then this granny said, well, I would love to cook for somebody. I have so much time. And the student said, oh, I always run out of time. I'd love to have somebody cooking for me. So if you do so, you get behind things and you know how you can combine things. Sometimes I also ask the clients themselves. This is the first time I did. It's a work home, 3 dwelling buildings and 1 daycare. They can do a career, like when they develop, they can go more and more to an apartment and live more individually. Outside space. And I did a workshop with them. Always a caretaker with 1 client. And they really could tell me what they wished and what they would like to have. Most things I knew, but sometimes you're surprised what comes out. They were very proud. In the end, they said, oh, we would like to live there. And I had to say, no, it's not for you because they cannot think that far. So in the end, now they live there and it's finished. And the chicken run around because it's on a farmyard. So stimulation is very important. How we had this orientation and all things, but how can you stimulate people? And it leads to self-determination and empowerment if you do so. Now I jumped to a school because I got as feedback, oh, now after the renovation, they can learn better, they are more focused. So what happened? I will show you. This has been the building. It's an old building, almost 100 years old in Rotterdam. Built in 1925, and almost 1 year later, it was extended with an extra floor. But now it looks like this. It's small rooms, very narrow corridor, not really nice atmosphere, big mess. So we said, how can we use the space? So let's think smart, let's use the corridors, because we cannot change the classrooms, we make them more clear. And what we did is that in the classrooms, we introduced a big cupboard between the classrooms, and you could open them with sliding doors so they can work together. But you see the corridor, and we introduce spaces where they can sit and work together. And it's just 3 or 3.5 feet wide. But it's a space they can choose themselves, they can go out and sit there. And this is on the other side where you have the cupboard. Use things smart. So this is just the same corridor, and you have these cupboards, and you have these little things where they can sit down. And they love it to work in a more informal way, not on a chair, not at a table. But so mostly when they have to think about new things, they sit there. I also like how they use the cupboards because it's multifunctional, and they design it. They have a special project. They show. You can look through the window, you can look into the classrooms, and everything is organized. But they design it and shape it all the time. So, yeah, this is typical. The kids sit there and work there. It's now from the outside, became more elegant. And we had a really low budget, so we had to find a way to do it with the things we had. So, another question from this time, how can AI help creating your own healing environment? It's maybe an interesting topic. We did a research project, or no, it's not a research, it's really something we hope that will take place once. It's a cooperation from another architect from the Netherlands, Femke Veenstra, from Nirit Philosoph from Israel, and Johan van der Swart, situated in Norway. And we worked together, and we said, okay, during Nightingale, it was really like fresh air and hygienic things were important. And then you had the Maggie centers, maybe some of you know, and it's very much already a healing environment. But what could be on top of all these things and adding something on top for the new century, something that could be an AI system, that you have this well-being around you and that you can stay as long as home and that you search for the care you need. So on an app, you can decide, oh, I stay home, I ask a physician online, or I go to a health house, or I have to go to the clinic. So all these things are connected with each other. And on the other side, there are physicians and people who organize these things and help you where you have to go and which treatment you need. So it can be at home or in a community center, or it can be in a healthcare building. And then you could say, for example, if you have, you can have a consultation at home. So a physician is on the other side and consult you while you are at home, or you do your exercise, your treatment, or some exercises at home. You don't have to go to a clinic all the time. Or you go to the health house, and then you have a consultation. Or you work together in a group, and you have some sessions together, and you learn a lot. And it's nice to cook together or exchange some experience. Sometimes you really have to go to the hospital, the health center, and then you do so. But even then, you can just stay overnight, but it's more focused on mobilization, and even if you had an operation, reactivating, getting active, not laying only in your bed. So now I make a step to something very special. It's personal. These are personal healing environments. After many years, we were asked to design just one room. They had a specific thing with one client who demolished everything. It turned out that this became my biggest research part. How can you make a healing environment for somebody with not understood behavior, very aggressive behavior, and how can you change his life, actually? So if you're interested, you can look up some things. And this has been Dolph's room. He lived in this environment for almost 25 years. Everything was bolted to the floor. He was very aggressive, so even more they tried to protect him and to keep everything safe, but he got more and more aggressive, and I think it's really misunderstood behavior. This was his outside spot and his entrance door. And because he had the mental capacity of a 2-year-old child, but he was 54 at that moment, I said, I really have to observe him. I cannot design for him. I cannot ask him what he would like to have. So can I observe him? He said, oh, but he's dangerous. And I said, no, it doesn't matter. I will have a look and it will be fine. And while I looked at him, it was the first time that I was really had a big question mark above my head. I said, oh, this is very difficult. Maybe if I design this or that, he will demolish directly. So what shall I do? And suddenly I looked at him and I saw him running in and out in his rubber boots, in his Wellington boots. And I said, hey, I think you play a role play. When we are kids, we all play role games, right? We imagine something. I played that I would become an architect and a teacher, really. It's really true. And so I said, hey, we have to change your environment because this is not your identity and maybe this is a chance. So I'd like to show you now a movie, how it had been. And you're much quicker with this. So do number 1.
In this facility, in the heart of Holland, some of the clients have severe behavioral problems. They are destructive and aggressive to themselves and their environment. One of them is Dolf, who has a mental capacity of a 2-year-old.
Agressie uit zich voornamelijk fysiek bij Dolf. Dus dan hebben we het over schoppen, slaan. Echt de fysieke toenadering zoeken, dus beetpakken, trekken aan haren. Het is voor hem echt een uiting van onbegrip. Hij snapt gewoon zijn wereld niet. En wij moeten daarmee handelen. Op het moment dat je bij hem zijn kamer in ging, dan was er altijd iemand als backup. Stond er bij de deur om de veiligheid te waarborgen.
Je kan het hem niet vragen, dus we weten het niet. Maar dat hij veel sloopte, dat is duidelijk.
Er stond eigenlijk niets in zijn kamer wat los was. Hij had een tafel, een stoel en een bed in zijn kamer staan. Dat stond vast tegen de muur of tegen de vloer. En verder geen losse attributen waarmee hij zichzelf of anderen wat aan kon doen.
Er stond een groot hek eigenlijk om de buitenplaats heen. Nou, dat was gewoon een afschuwelijk gezicht. Ik heb er geen ander woord voor. Dat was echt verschrikkelijk. Met name voor een moeder is dat extreem moeilijk. Op een gegeven moment heeft ze gezegd, het ging zo ver dat ze zei, nou, ik doe het niet meer, ik kom niet meer. Want er was dagen van overstuur. Wat ik me goed voor kan stellen.
His desolate quarters were not questioned by the staff at the time.
Ja, Nou, dan ga ik er gewoon heel eerlijk beantwoorden. Op dat moment wist ik niet beter. Natuurlijk heb je daar wel gevoel bij dat het niet iets is wat je iemand gunt. Maar op dat moment leek het ons echt noodzakelijk om dat zo in te richten.
Yeah, so very, very sad situation. And I thought, okay, let's look how we can change this and try to create. Oh, it's still working. So we could have.
In this
Wait, I have to go
facility,
to the next. Yeah. Okay, so we know for the next slide. Fantastic. I didn't know that it would. So it was important to find out his identity, whom he would like to be. So this idea of a farmer. She said, okay, let's make an environment that mirrors who you would like to be. So we asked the famous Dutch landscape photographer if he could use one of his images. We integrated even the door in this image, the television, everything, and he could look far over his land. And then you remember the chapel where we did this massive oak wood furniture. And we said, well, we make a bed, a real bed for him, and not just a steel one. We give him his dignity back, like a human being. He has a normal bed. Everything fixed so that he couldn't see and couldn't move, but still. And the position was in a much better spot, so he could observe the others and look around and feel safe. And you see this red floor, it's not that red, but it's a bit less red. But intuitively, we decided for this color. And it's not about us, it's about who he is. And he's actually a small child. And if you look back, this is the first color we all see through the stomach of our mother. It's this prenatal red line, red color. If you put your hand against a lamp, you see that it's a very warm red. It calms you. It's very, very calming. And it works out very well. Small details. But we also covered his heating. And I knew that he had a favorite spot. I saw him always sitting on one position. So we carved out his spot to give a little sign, hey. So his dignity, you are really a normal person. And then we came to the outside spot, and I asked, it was a very intense exchange with the caretakers and with the therapists and everybody, and we all asked, if we would do this, what would happen? What do you think? And shall we make a high fence again? Do we have to make a high fence? Will he run away? And then they first said, yes, yes, yes. And one caretaker said, no, I don't think so. I think he's afraid. And that was an opening and another approach. But okay, if it's so, we make another fence. So we make a lower part. He can feel safe when he's leaving his room. And then he can orientate and look around and decide finally to walk around and go to the others. So this self-determination, he can choose. And that's something very important for human beings. And to the street, a bit higher, but with glass, so he doesn't look through a fence, but he can look through the outside. When he returned into his room, he was super, super happy and jumped up and down and he said, this is beautiful, this is beautiful. And he fell in love with his room and he never demolished anything anymore. I was very glad that it turned out this. And 2 months later, I visited him and I saw that he was making his bed. He put this little carpet super parallel in front of his bed, took care of everything. Then these pictures, the caretakers introduced this. So if you make something beautiful as an architect, people go on with this, they feel it, they do not want to demolish it, they want to keep it that nice. So what did we do in the end? If I analyze it, there's the existing situation and you listen and you observe and you talk with others. And in this case, I followed my intuition about that he would be a farmer. I didn't know that he lived in a countryside when he was 2 years old and he loved it. Later on, I realized I can do also biographical work and analyze this. I will show you with another project. Then interpret it and get behind the secret of a person. Who is this person? And in this case, if you are that vulnerable, make a tailor-made environment. So if you have less vulnerable clients, you can, like this zigzag, you can do more general solution. But if you have such a person like Dolph, you really have to do, and it turns out well, and you save a lot of money. So actually, it's a kind of psychological architecture, I think. The seclusions turned to zero. he was secluded before the renovation every day. But the renovation costs, that's very important for me because we felt very guilty about 75,000 euros, which is similar to dollars now at this moment. But the care he got every year was 120,000, and the extra care, because he was that aggressive, was 124. And you see this orange balcony, it's 0 now. So I understood they save 180,000 euros a year, which is a lot. And you have a happy guide. And now I hope it works. Oh. No, it will not. Yes, that's how it is now.
Dolph's living quarters got a complete makeover. Everything was still bolted to the floor, but the material used was custom made. The atmosphere, friendly and open plan.
Nou, in het begin waren wij heel erg sceptisch. Want je kon van punt A, waar alles heel strak geregeld was en hij kon eigenlijk niets op die kamer kapot maken bijvoorbeeld. Nou, toen kwamen er een heleboel veranderingen en toen hadden wij zoiets, we moeten het nog zien hoe het gaat. Maar eigenlijk ging dat heel natuurlijk, een hele natuurlijke overgang. Hij vond het prachtig, die kamer.
Dolph is extremely proud of his room. He even has his own television set.
Ja. Je bent heel blij als er aan begonnen wordt, sowieso. Hè? Dat mensen het initiatief nemen om uiteindelijk het leven voor Dolph een stukje mooier te maken.
Er is echt gedragsverandering is er opgetreden. En dat is denk ik voor een groot deel te wijten ook aan die verbouwing. Eigenlijk was het toen gewoon, nu is de situatie zo, dus nu gaan we er zo mee om. En er was ook geen weg meer terug naar het isolement waar hij in zat. Nee, hij was nu gewoon vrij om zich te bewegen waar hij wilde en waar hij kon.
His tendency to hurt himself or break everything around him has dramatically reduced.
Waar het vroeger, waar zijn cadeaus heel snel kapot gingen, daar blijft het nu gewoon weken, soms maanden, blijft het staan op zijn kamer. En hij is er trots op.
Hij beweegt zich veel meer door de groep heen. In de koffiekamer of in het gedeelte daar waar de televisie staat, wat een beetje de centrale ruimte is. En als het hem dan even te veel wordt, dan trekt hij zich weer terug op eigen terrein en dan gaat hij weer naar zijn kamer toe. Dus dat sociale contact is enorm verbeterd.
Je werkt in de zorg omdat je wil iets betekenen voor die cliënt. En doordat je hem veel gelukkiger ziet op dit moment dan wat hij toen was, eigenlijk is dat gevoel onbeschrijfelijk om het zo te noemen.
Zit me kijken. Ja? Ja, mag. Zit me kijken.
You're allowed to have a look. So, and his mother, it's incredible what he does with everybody, not only with him, but with the caretakers, less ill, the family happy again. It's amazing. So we thought, okay. The healthcare institution was great, and they said after years, we make a research project. We do 12 other rooms because we have to prove that there's something we can do again and again to change the life of these people. So it's a research project with 12 projects, and I will show you. I did 5 more projects, but other architects will also do other projects to improve it. And another architect already did, and it turned out the same way. And it's very, very hopeful. And I hope this will change a lot of things. This is a lady who almost lays undressed on her bed. Because of that, everything is closed. So what I did, and I asked them, what is her biographical background? She has a Hindustan background, and she has the age of a 3 or 4 year old girl. You see that everything is pink and soft and like a little bling bling girl. I said, okay, if she is so, we make a bling bling environment. This was her former room, and we did research about what we could do something with glitter and with pink because she loves pink, but it's not about us. So it's about building her identity. And I said I would like to have a cocoon, something where she can hide in during day. So we designed we measured precisely in the office which height and that it feels safe. And then this cocoon was produced in a carpenter shop. But also the connection to others is important. You see this door? This is the cocoon. It's finished now. So during daytime, she's laying there. She can look to the outside or to the other side. The caretaker can sit next to her and there's a connection to the team room, so she can hear somebody. It's like a little kid. Actually, you feel safe, but you even don't put a little baby on the first floor when you are downstairs, right? So do the same, think this way, think that empathic. This is her entire room. And I realized that she loved it to be outside. So we created an outside space where she can run out, naked or not, and until the tip of her nose, she can stand behind the fence and look around, and nobody can see her. So, but all the materials, it's cherry wood, massive cherry wood, really nice. And it's a princess. We made a princess bed for the night. She never demolished anything. And when I returned 2 years ago, I realized that she could speak again. So she talked to me, and it took a while until I realized that she was talking to me clearly and inviting me for a cup of coffee. This was her bathroom before and after with a rain shower, so also these sensory things, and pink tiles on certain wall, and she waved over them and said, "Oh, this is beautiful, this is beautiful." So she really loves her spot too. Just 2 slides of another project. A client who always, when he was angry, was biting in his wall, and it was difficult to find a solution. So I said, okay, let's cover it with massive wood. Would you use also for children play things that they can put into their mouth? And he never did again. So it's very much about finding the identity of a person. This overview is important to feel safe. Who is entering my room? Yeah. Then this dignity with the materials and this self-determination. Can I leave the room or not? Can I go here and there? This gives you, this empowers you. It turned out very well. So this is a project from a client who always was laying under his mattress, and we were wondering why, and everybody said he has to lay on his mattress, and he was peed everywhere, and it was really, really a big, big item. So I did this biographical work, and it turned out that he had the age of a 3-month-old kid maximum, and I found out that he was born on Bali. And suddenly I understood why he loved to lay on this hard underground, because he was looking for this physical experience he knew from his early childhood. So who are we to change this? And so I said, okay, let's do it. He also made an environment that fits very much to this background. And now he has a bigger mattress, but now he moves, every night he moves the mattress a bit, rolls in his blanket and lays between the mattress and the wall, and then sleeps on the hard ground. Really funny. And he loves to dance in front of the mirror. Simple things. I will show you now a project. We almost changed nothing. It was an experience, because the guy who lives in a new apartment, but we had to figure out first what is his background, what does he really need. So it's an example of, with low budget, changing things if you understand. So he loved wild animals, he loved the map. But when I entered, I have to go back for one more. Can you see this monitor? His caretaker was sitting there and observing him. It was like big brothers watching you. So how would you feel if somebody would look all the time at you this way? And the guy was sitting on a skippy ball, like, oh, I have to jump away if something's getting dangerous. So I said, stop with this monitor there, make a more homely atmosphere. So this was an extra space where he could sit, also not something you would really like to chill and hang out, right? Then I asked his mother, how is he at home? And he said, oh, more calm, and he likes to lay on this bed and on the bench. And so show me some images how it is at home. Okay, this wild animal, softer, good. Maybe a simple sketch. It was really low key. And I said, okay, the table will be now the dining table. The caretaker will sit there with a laptop, more in a homely atmosphere. We make the wall soft green, the window to the kitchen where there was very heavy light behind. So we just make a jungle. Very, very cheap solutions. And the most important one was to make a little opening in the door, to a bell, that somebody had to ring a bell in front of his door. So he knew now somebody's coming now. And he runs to the door, he opens this little window, and he checks you, okay, I like you, and then he opens the door, but he is in charge, and that's important. So this little thing, so he couldn't be surprised anymore, and now they can leave him whole afternoons alone, because he feels safe. This was this chilling spot. I said, make a big bench by, the parents did. It was super cheap. Big bench, your style, these animal things, and now, and he's laying there super happy. Last project, the Empire, a client, and by him I learned about his biographical background, who loved the Empire, who loved the royal Dutch family, and we didn't know why. Well, lots of people do, but I mean, he was really a fan. With him, we also changed for the other clients that they got an overview and a connection, a visual connection to the living room. Very important. So, like little kids, all feeling safe. And I said, okay, you have this connection, but you want to be a prince or something, so you get a throne and you get a royal bed, doesn't matter. This is the connection between the living room and his room. Section, outside space also. And his bed, and the caretaker can sit on the bench next to him, his chair. And, which is really, oh yeah, and I asked his mother, and this was the key. I asked his mother, why does he love the royal family that much? Why is he that fond of it? Oh, she said, he grew up in Den Haag, and always the third Tuesday in September, the royal family opens the parliament, and they moved along with the golden carriage. And he saw that. So this was the ideal situation in his life. He said, oh, I want to have this situation. And if you find out, look, when you are ill and you feel very vulnerable and you think, if it would be like that in that moment, and I would directly feel better. Actually, it's the same. But this is a key. And what I always like, that the caretakers always come up with something I can't know, and they know. And they said, do you know religion is very important for him, and I think we should have a Maria in his room. But he would move this Maria around, so we had to make a golden box with high security glass in front that he cannot demolish it. But we did so, and later on I got this photo, and they said, can you see the kisses on the glass? He gave kisses to Maria. So he's talking a lot with her, it calms him. And this is the last image, and thank you very much for listening. Questions? You can also.
I can just ask it. Do you have to be? Oh, I see. I got that.
It's not on.
Does it work? Oh, there we go. When you are creating these spaces, do you have to be very mindful of materials that you're choosing? Is it a factor of durability or like ability to clean it, anything like that?
Everything, yeah, it's a very good question. Maybe you remember this red carpet, or you see the carpet here. It goes up, and they have these special machines because they always clean these environments with very wet machines. So it has to be very, it has to stand all these circumstances. And lots of clients, they pee a lot and do not behave just normal. So cleaning is very important, and also that it stays sustainable. So mostly I use a massive wood, because if they carve in or would do something, we could repair it, but we never had to.
I'm wondering, when you sort of propose such playful design elements, because that seems like a core of a lot of what you do you ever receive sort of pushback from, more reasonable, elements of your clients or something like that? And how do you navigate that? How do you really push for, I think this will make a difference, so it's worth taking the risk?
Good question. I mean, we are all, we grew up as architects to do more clean architecture or straight or whatever. So it was an experience for me too when we did the Room of Dolph. But because it was that extreme and it was that terrible, it was really hard to think about another solution, which is maybe more normal, or I don't know, but because I thought that they tried and it has to be something special. Yeah. So we learned it ourselves by trying this. And in the end, it was why we got this project was in that time, something happened in the Netherlands with another client and another healthcare institution, and it came into publicity. So they all thought, oh, we have to make good environment for our client, that we are not, that people don't think we have the same situation. So they said money plays no role. It gave us a freedom we needed, I think, for the first room to think out of the box. Yeah.
Hi, Andrea. Very thoughtful work. I really like the work. Can you talk more about that research project? You said how many architects, and you're doing 6 different rooms? And
yeah, it was after Dolph. They decided after years, when it turned out very well, and again, we said, well, we do not get the founding of these rooms from the ministry, because they say you cannot prove it in advance. And you need a financing to change these rooms, right? Otherwise, you just change a little bit. And so they said, okay, we do this research project to show that it really works. This approach works. But we will not do this only with me or with my office, but also with others. And in the end, there were a couple of really difficult clients. So they said, you can better do it. That was the reason why I was involved a couple of times more.
Is the research done?
It's ongoing.
Okay.
I think it's halfway.
Halfway. Okay.
Yeah.
Terrific.
Mm-hmm. And they will change. Maybe I can say something about it. They will change every year. In a period of 4 years, they will change every year 3 environments.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hi, Andrea. My name is Hernan. I'm a PhD student here in the School of Architecture and Planning. I want to thank you for coming here and talking about architecture and health, and having a focus more on health rather than form. I've seen many projects, and I do research of my own looking into health and architecture, but sometimes I have a concern when projects don't have quantitative measures as the outcome of what was actually successful. So like, how do you know if something actually changed as opposed to just observing, like, behaviorally? So I wonder, like, if you have any thoughts on that. And also, I think it's being able to identify what is working, like what specific aspect is working, because when you transform a whole room, you don't know what is actually creating the effect, what object or what part of the project. So I'm wondering if that could be like a future direction to know, like, what is most effective, because not every facility can renovate an entire room or building.
That's true. And that's why I showed also this super cheap solution, you know. It's much more about investigating a lot of money. It's about understanding what somebody really needs. And you can do it also low key. Yeah. And sometimes we changed only a couple of things to do so. Like the cocoon and Dolph's room, they are extreme and they are total renovations. But it was necessary in their case. It depends on, you can also do things more easy and always more simple. I hope that this inspires a lot of healthcare institutions to change these environments, because what I often see is that they say, oh, this is really extreme, and we also have to protect. I mean, they all think good, and they think about, oh, we have to protect the clients, we have to protect the caretakers, and it's very difficult to think out of the box and to go over this bridge and to take this risk. And in the end, you take always a risk, right? Thank God it turned out always well. Yeah. Yeah. Where's the mic? Yeah.
Well, thank you for coming. I know this is more of a general question, but how in Europe do you make your architecture always look new? Yes. No,
New.
new, like I've seen pictures of 20-year-old buildings that look as if they were built yesterday. And they're kept so well, and they're
yeah. Well, sometimes things don't look new anymore, but maybe it's my German background. Also, I in Germany we take very much care that things stay good, this quality, and I realize that I try to detail things carefully, think carefully about the materials. And because I mean, it's my own, it's important for me too that they stay nice. So when I return, that they still say, okay, I'm proud, and it's the same. But be aware, in the Netherlands, the budgets are very low, very, very low. It's like social housing. All these projects, this is just a lot of fantasy, and we build it for social housing budgets.
Well,
and that's very difficult.
Good work that you do,
and it's not easy. You have strict rules, fire department, everything. We have to go through all these things. We have to talk, and
that makes more sense. But still, I admire the architecture from your home country.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you. First off, thank you so much for your presentation. My name is Yash. I'm a student here in ARC 403. You gave us a workshop just before this. My question is about like the larger scale, where instead of these individual rooms, you started your talk with circulation and about intuitive access of pads and signage. Instead of relying on signage, but rather the architecture to allow somebody to find their paths, like continuing the texture of the exterior facade inwards. Can you elaborate more on how you work out complex circulation for these like multiple different types of pathways for nurses, for doctors, for all these different layers of individuals with different amount of public and private circulation? How do you articulate it? Like, what are some strategies that you use to make it easier for different areas?
Good question. And a new question. I never really thought about it because I do things very intuitively. But wayfinding and a way through a building has always played an important role, even during my study projects. I think it's, all projects. It doesn't matter if they are small or little, small or big. You always have to jump into the experience and the body of the users. This is always the key. And if you replace yourself in them and what they're gonna do there, and what is their background, and what they can imagine. This medical center is used by caretakers, but also for people who really cannot read or write or are very scared to go there now. So how you think about how can I bring them in a relaxing mood? But how can they orientate? And then I really, step by step, I think I'm them, and I replace myself in their feelings. I think that's what I do. And I see you, Rolf, you do the same, right, as an architect. We are very empathic, and we jump into the experience or the bodies of the users. And that's how we work. And then the right solution rolls out itself. Yeah.
Oh, you want a question?
Yeah. Thanks for your beautiful presentation. Then I really appreciate that you care about all these details, which makes huge impact on the experience in the building, and also appreciate that very inclusive and at the same time personalized design approach that you went through. And I would like to ask a question: that how would you make decisions when there's a very complex situation that is beyond our expertise? That how would you make each decision to make sure that works properly? That will be very important. Is that just through the conversation with the people and then that person itself, or do you consult the experts in this matter?
Very good question. And maybe I explained a bit during our workshop we had before the lecture. I think it's very important to, if you do these participatory processes or include all the caretakers or the users, it can be pupils and teachers, and depends on which building. But always do not hand them out lists where they have to fill in what they would like to have, or that they have to design themselves immediately. What I always do is that I do workshops with them, and I ask them, how is the identity of the building? How do you experience the building now? If it's an existing building, or sometimes they move from another building, and how do we experience that? And we did today with the students, and they did great. So very quickly, they were walking through the university, and they experienced this building, and were writing down, how is the entrance? Does it welcome me? When I'm inside, can I orientate? Things like that. So first, I always ask the users to get aware of what is the identity now, and mostly it's not okay, so they can explain what is wrong. I do with visualization cards as well, so if they cannot directly name it, they pick something that is similar, like a labyrinth, or it's messy, or what else, and then they can explain directly. Then they write it down. And then as a next question, I ask them, how would you like to have it? And they also can explain it very well, because they have this negative experience, or they are aware of what is wrong now. And then they are very much aware what they want. So again, with the visualization cards, they pick out how they would like to have it. And then they are super motivated, and this is always the best start, because they felt themselves what they would like to have. And then they can judge much better what will happen. And what I saw, that they identify with the building because they were asked, so they feel heard. And if you reach this, they never ask you to change things, or only some things. But the projects, we had to do a design and build, for example. We're not allowed to ask any question, to cooperate with any user. You're a disaster. And this is great for a healthcare institution or for a client. So, then we feel safe and we have a contractor and da. But in the end, if people who use a building are not heard, feel not heard, they protest. Later on, they protest in any way. And then they say, we start to mutter, this is not nice, and then you have to change it anyway. So it's economically seen, but participation is much cheaper. And it's easy to learn it, to talk with people, and it's nice to have this connection. I always love it too. When I run my workshops, I go home and say, that's great, I met the clients, I met really the people who will use it. There's a connection. And I empower them also to tell me what they want. So I'm not only the mysterious architect, but I'm a normal person, and they are allowed to tell me what they feel and think. It's very important, this connection. Thank you for your question. And they're upstairs.
Thank you for this lecture. I have a question. Do you believe it's plausible to have this kind of personal aspects in the second part of the project be put into a more larger scale, especially in institutions where the clients cycle through and are not as permanent? Yeah.
This example of the school, for example, shows I try to roll out these experience and these things now also for bigger projects. And but I would like to do a psychiatric clinic again. I did one, but with the knowledge I have now, and really change the entire clinic with certain tools and things that the well-being of the space is much better for everyone. Finally, years ago, I helped a Spanish architect to give them some expertise for a psychiatric clinic in Lima. I don't know if it's built yet, but they asked me, how would you look like? How would you look at this task? And I said, look at the identity, what is normal, what people love in Peru, what is common, and put these ingredients together, but in a styleful way, of course. but look at this because it says something about what people really, where they long to, what they would like to have. And you are, as an architect, you can always make a beautiful building. It mustn't be kitsch. But I think, I strongly believe that if we all would look more like, how do people feel and how can we really build for their needs, their psychological needs, I think this world would look different. People would behave different. You see it in urban planning everywhere. If you take care of certain things they really need, there's less crime, everything. I mean, this is also, there's a lot of research about this. We should be more aware. And as an architect, I hope that you all have another approach in the future. I'm hopeful because what I realized with my students the last 5 or 6 years, this is really a new generation. I strongly believe in you. They really want to change things. They really want to make a positive change, and that environments, that it's not only star architecture and super for the magazines, but it's really for the people. And you can combine both. It's a good environment for people, but also an elegant building.
Hi, my name is Sammy. I was also in the 403 lecture earlier today. So I wanted to ask about sort of how you originally got involved in this like type of architecture and like how you first sort of started that process, because this is really, really interesting to me, and it is definitely something that I personally want to explore in my own career. And so like kind of how can I also get involved in this type of architecture?
That's a very nice question. I go back to my youth. You saw the pictures of the hospital of my father, right? Finally, he had problems with his blood circulation, and finally it led to an amputation. So when I turned 15, we had to deal with that he had one leg. And it changed, and he was still the happy, funny person, right? And the loving father, but we had to deal with the situation, and suddenly you are very careful when you're in the bathroom. Are there any drops where he can slip, or when it's snowing, you clean everything. So you get very sensibilized for this. Then I started to study, and I had the luck that there was a very good teacher at the University of Stuttgart, Sibylle Heeg, who did a lot of research. I did a lot of courses about hospitality, about hospitalism, prisons, and things, what architecture does with people. So I learned a lot from her. And later on, I realized that I choose all these tutorials about how light works, color, and all. I don't know. It was a personal fascination for that. So then we started with our own office, our own enterprise. And we had the luck that one of the first projects we undertook was that this healthcare institution we did all these projects for came and said, oh, these are 51 dwellings, so row houses, Dutch social row houses in the Netherlands. This is very common, this amount. Can you change 4 of them for our clients that they live in a normal environment? So that's how we got in touch with them. But it was a wish from me to work again for them. So after years, they came back with this island competition, and they said, oh, you're invited. I said, yes, I really hope that this opens the door, because this is my personal fascination. It's much nicer to design for people you know. And it's really a bit difficult to find a good solution, because psychological aspects play a role. Look, these people who live in these dwellings now, don't know, I mean, these 51, I don't know any one of these. It's very anonymous. And it's much nicer to work as an architect for people you know. Yeah, that's the story. So get in contact with institutions and healthcare institutions, and yeah. It's great that you ask so many questions. I've never had this before. You're a great audience. Yeah, really. I mean, very reflecting.
You, in this process of designing with empathy, like growing up, and like this is, I guess, personal, but I guess like how do you go about being empathetic towards so many different types of groups while retaining an identity of your own, both as an individual as well as an architect or a designer?
Yeah. Yay. well, it just happens. For example, this island, when this was the first time that they really asked, we want to be involved in this participatory process, and they forced me, and I'm very happy because I liked it, and they learned me a lot. So every project, I could really work together with the people. They taught me so many things. So this 1 or 2 days running with them, they showed me, look, now they will behave like this. Can you see this black thing? They don't know if it's high or low. They will jump like this over it because they can't see. Oh, you never forget. Things like that. You learn, and your expertise is growing. And you take it with you all your life and all your projects. So, yeah, and still if I don't know things, I ask, and mostly when I run these days with them, then they say, oh yeah, you are here today. We don't know what to say. Okay, let's just sit down and wait. And after 10 minutes, they start, oh yeah, we realize this is very important for us. And look at this. And so we get a communication. They tell me a lot how they would wish to live or work there. So, and then you bring things together. And I don't know how you work as an architecture student, but in my case, it helps me always if things get more narrow. So if you have circumstances and not total freedom, actually it helps you in the design process, right? Mm-hmm. So I like it very much. There's we have to finish? There's one more
question. Okay,
one
let
more
me
question.
get it over there.
Slide.
You work with so many kinds of people. I was wondering if you ever had any big conflict where maybe two people wanted completely different things, and how you addressed that, and how you helped them, I guess, come together, or how do you have to compromise?
No, I never had that. No, but because I don't know, maybe, of course, you have architects who say, I'm the architect and I decide, and it has to happen this way. And I think I'm not kind of this architect. I think I'm a partner, and we are team players, right? So I listen carefully to them, I take them serious, and because they feel that they are taken serious, they are more open. And I can learn so much from my clients. And sometimes when you design something and you hear a lot of different things, and you really can filter who wants to stay in their old traditions and an old way of doing things. And then you have to do it in a smart way. They say, no, but we're not going to do this. Look, this is much better. And then you explain them why transformation is worthwhile to do, and to work in a different way, and not to go on in the old-fashioned way, which caused maybe difficult situations and did not work out well for the well-being from the people. Or it can be also practical, like processes, how they pick things. If a caretaker has to pick the diapers and run too far, but he always wants to have them here or there. But you just talk with each other, and you give them the feeling you find a solution together. And then they trust you, and then they are more open. And it's the same on the construction side. That's what I always realize. I never sit in all these meetings and talk with the constructor like, oh, the architect, I want this. And I said, I carefully thought about it, and we are going to make this like this. This is this because this and this and this will happen with the clients. It's important that we realize this. And then they feel the intention, and they feel that it's necessary and important. For example, this medical center, still like that. Maybe you saw the roof. They had these very fine lines of this, like here on the background with this wood. And finally, the constructor was that sensibilized about how I work, that they were very taking care of realizing it in the same intention. So sometimes I came to the construction site and oh, we did it this and this way. I think that's what you would do, right? I said, yes. And then you talk each other's language. But you have to find this way, and you can. It's an intention, and you have to show them, and they feel it. Honest and respectfully.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So, folks, Andrea is another one of our guests who brings the gift of an amazing lecture, but not only that, she plugs into our community. Today, she was in 403. She spent 2 hours with our folks, and we were talking about design, starting from a place of evocative feeling. So that was really fruitful. Tomorrow, she's going to plug into our environmental psychology class. So we are truly grateful for you coming, for integrating, spending time with us, and we're grateful to learn from you. So everyone, thank you. Andrea Möhn.